am so sick of the media dictating the terms of the narrative in this country. I'm so sick of having to be apologetic for who I am. I'm so sick of people in middle America being called flyover country or slope-headed.
Conservative teabaggers.
It's going to be teabagging day for the right wing, and they are going nuts for it.
It's hard to talk when you're teabagging. David Gergen?
It's so funny because the teabaggers, the one thing they hate is when you call them racist.
If racism is not the whole of the Tea Party, it is in its heart.
Anger about a black person being president.
And racism, you put those two together.
The hatred that Timothy McVeigh, that he had, there are others. There are plenty of people like that right now.
I think you get the general tenor of this. It's anti-government, anti-CNN, since this is highly promoted by the right-wing conservative networks.
The left pits people against each other. Divide and conquer is the strategy. I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to live in that world. I'm sick of living in that world. I live in that world. It is the exact opposite of e pluribus unum.
You falsely accused me of being involved in a racial incident. How predictable. How predictable.
You are racist.
Okay.
You are very racist.
Okay.
You're going to be dealt with.
He said he works for you.
It's going to come to light.
He said he works for you.
You really are.
He said he works for you.
Okay. You really are.
Hey, just answer one question. Yes or no? Can you do that?
You ask tough questions all the time. Why can't you answer them?
Why about
you ask tough questions all the time.
What about the fake person?
Yes
What about the fake person?
Yes or no?
You declared war on us. You declared war on me. And the reason why I'm at war with you is because you declared war on me and us. It's that simple. It's that simple.
Your thinking is over. Your thinking is over. All the racist comments are over.
Hey, when have I ever said this racist?
No,
ever.
no,
Ever.
Ever. We're saying the demographics of this country are changing. So your way of thinking is dead.
And what the left has stood for with political correctness is to try and get those with whom they disagree to shut up. And the Tea Party movement and Sarah Palin and Michelle Bachmann and Alan West and all the people that have gone out there against the mainstream media and said, you're going to call us racist, you're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs, you. War.
Me?
Yeah.
Andrew?
His name is Andrew Breitbart.
Andrew Breitbart.
Andrew Breitbart.
Andrew Breitbart.
Andrew Breitbart.
Andrew Breitbart.
Andrew Breitbart. His name? Andrew Breitbart.
Who is Andrew Breitbart?
Andrew's a partisan journalist. He's very upfront about it. And other people pretend not to be.
I definitely consider myself conservative. It's taken me a long time to figure that out because I was so fearful of what that meant to my social standing where I live in Hollywood. But I basically am. I mean, I'm not a religious conservative. I was bar mitzvahed. I have the tape to prove it, but I'm not the most religious person you're going to meet. I am sympathetic to the social conservative narrative, but I am very, very much a limited government guy. I have sympathies towards the libertarian side of issues, and I can be persuaded on certain issues of consensual behavior between, two adults. I have a libertine soft spot.
He's a provocateur, a rabble-rouser, a master manipulator of the media's appetite for controversy, real or fake.
They say you can judge a man by his friends.
Andrew Breitbart is a stud.
And all I can say is thank God for journalists like Andrew Breitbart.
Andrew confronts so that he can get to the truth. That's really positive.
You kept me sane in Iraq, brother. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You kept me safe in America.
You can also measure a man by his enemies. and Andrew Breitbart has all the right enemies. The White House wants him to go away.
I didn't even know that ACORN was getting a whole lot of federal money.
Both the Senate and the House have voted to cut it off.
Planned Parenthood wants him to go away.
Okay. They're 14 and under?
Yeah.
Just send them right there if they need an abortion.
I'm pretty sure he's persona non grata at the criminal racket formerly known as ACORN.
James O'Keefe is a 25-year-old independent filmmaker. The best I can describe him is he's a cross between Morley Safer and Sacha Baron Cohen. And he came to me with this extraordinary video where he played the role of a pimp with a prostitute.
The type of business or service you provide, let me make sure there's a code for it, okay?
A code for prostitution?
You might have to name it something else.
And back with us tonight from BigGovernment.com is Andrew Breitbart and Hannah Giles, who played the prostitute in that video, only 20 years old. So you said, I'm a prostitute. Oh, okay.
Yeah, completely accepting.
Dancing?
It's not dancing, trust me.
But dancing is considered an art?
Sex is kind of like dancing, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
She was trying to explain to them, even though they were a pimp and a prostitute, how to put it down on forms and tax forms so that they could get a house. They also talked about wanting to own a brothel.
But the point is that there's going to be 13 El Salvadorian girls coming into this house. Mm-hmm. We don't want that to cause any trouble.
Yeah. You're taking care of them.
Yeah.
So you can use them as a dependent.
What if they're making money because they're performing tricks too?
If they're making money and they're underage, you shouldn't be letting nobody know anyway.
This would have been a brothel for pedophiles, which makes it especially bad. Andrew Breitbart has pointed it out a few times, but that sort of angle of it never really caught fire.
If they're making money and they're underage, you shouldn't be letting nobody know anyway. So don't worry, you're fine. You're fine.
James O'Keefe and Hannah Giles, 25 years old and 20 years old. Neither of them went to journalism school. Neither of them interned for Katie Couric. Yet I happen to believe they're the best journalists I've ever come across in my entire life. I've never seen anything quite like what happened over the last 2 days. And I want Quincy, Illinois, to tell James and Hannah how appreciative you are for their work.
Clearly an individual who collaborated and cooperated with Fox Entertainment under the guise of creating news. This is Borat-like journalism.
It's an embarrassment for ACORN. I don't know if it's going to go beyond that.
I think it should be noted, to be fair, though, that this might be viewed as entrapment.
It sounds to me like that's just entrapment.
It is illegal, as Linda Tripp will tell you, to record someone in the state of Maryland without their permission.
Secretly recorded or not, you don't help a woman who wants to traffic in underage girls for sex business to fund her boyfriend's future congressional campaign, and you don't help her lie on her tax forms about it.
And this is all what they told you?
Yes, it is.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallant.
I like being in the proximity of people in tea parties, and, we start having long discussions about what we agree or disagree on. And we have our core values, but sometimes we have divergent, ideas. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of good. I like it more than being in LA where everybody agrees with everybody, or else, you're out of a job.
You know his websites, BigGovernment.com, BigJournalism.com, BigHollywood.com, Breitbart.com, and Breitbart TV. He is a legend in his own right. He's done incredible things. Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Breitbart.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you very much. The last 6 months have been extraordinary for me because I've begun to put into practice all that I know. And that is the majority country that believes in freedom and liberty are being held back by the most powerful, potent force that we know in the modern age, and that is the media. And what we are starting today isn't just pushing back against government, it's pushing back against the media. We're creating our own media. And there are so many stories that need to be told. There is so much corruption out there. So when James O'Keefe came to my basement, because I'm a multimedia middle-class mogul, and showed me the ACORN tape, I said, that's weird. And then I saw multiple tapes. I said, that's weird. Then it showed me more. And the second that I started launching the videos, every step of the way, ACORN and the left lied. And every step of the way, the mainstream media went to ACORN, went to Bertha Lewis and said, tell us the truth, Bertha. And she said, this is the only tape, this is the only one, and they kicked them out of all of them.
They were thrown out of dozens of offices. People were thrown out in dozens of our offices. Dozens of offices. Just because you repeat a lie over and over again doesn't make it true.
Thank you, Bertha. I hate to use an NRA metaphor, but that was ammunition.
And this is a Fox News alert. 2 more ACORN officials have been fired as the shocking undercover investigation has now spread to that organization's Washington offices.
I'm using the money that she's getting. You know what I mean?
Okay, but you don't know where it's coming from.
I personally know where it's coming from.
Right, but when the police ask you, you don't know where it's coming from. Is what we're trying to tell you.
All right.
We're looking out for you.
After the second video, Bertha Lewis said they were kicked out of Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and New York. Goody.
Tom Jones is going to come and beat you and want money. You get a 10, and you bury it down in there, and you put the money right in that corporate and put in, and you tell a single soul but yourself where it is.
The Senate immediately moved to defund ACORN. The census severed all their ties with ACORN. All before the Washington Post, New York Times had written a column inch. I don't know of any time in my lifetime that you see real political ramifications from a story that neither the Post nor the New York Times weighed in on. And that told me this is a new day in media.
You are not going to like this next election cycle, mainstream media. You're either going to have to get with the program or you're going to be the object of the folly. MSNBC did an entire discussion on, are these protests with these gun-wielding freaks, are they racist?
A man at a pro-healthcare reform rally just outside wore a semi-automatic assault rifle on his shoulder and a pistol on his hip. People feel like, yes, there are Second Amendment rights for sure, but also there are questions about whether this has racial overtones. I mean, here you have a man of color in the presidency and white people showing up with guns strapped to their waists.
Does everybody here know what happened with that photo where they cut the head off? That was an African-American gentleman. That, my friends, is not media bias. That is contempt for the American people.
Democrats are getting spanked among every demographic in the country, you know, from liberals to women to everyone else except blacks. So Democrats know to gin up, you know, black support, you got to talk about race.
Where are the people of color at the Tea Parties? They're almost all white people, and this is, in essence, a white people's party.
This is about hating a black man in the White House. This is racism straight up. That is nothing but a bunch of tea-bagging rednecks.
What they're doing is a very well-used tactic by the left. Call someone a racist. If I call you a racist, you now have to prove a negative, and you may not be able to, and that changes the conversation.
Racist, homophobic, all those buzzwords that they learned in their freshman orientation class at Wesleyan are used as weapons to try to destroy you and to intimidate you, to not speak up and to speak your mind. And your days of doing this are over. If you continue not to report the news, and if you continue to frame this group of people as racist, sexist, and homophobe, when their primary issues are about fiscal responsibility and how you spend our money, I am going to organize a tea party on 6th Avenue in Manhattan, and you're not going to be able to get out to the Hamptons that weekend. And that, my friend, is my speech. Thank you very much.
My son Max had a best friend named Andrew Breitbart. And through Max, Andrew met my daughter, Max's sister, Susie, and was quite taken with her and courted her, and they became an item.
Well, when I started dating my wife in 1992, I kind of got a twofer package and with Orson Bean. He's 83 years old, and he's a recurring regular on Desperate Housewives. He was on The Tonight Show as a host, probably in the top 5 people who have ever co-hosted the show. He's done everything. He sings, he acts, he's the ultimate raconteur, and he's a man of conscience.
About the second or third time Susie invited Andrew to the house before they were married, he was sitting over here at our dining room table, holding forth, and he leaned backwards and went right through the window. Right through the window, and hardly stopped talking.
There's controversy here on 2 issues, and somebody's going to be called out for the untruth teller that they are. Maybe it's me, maybe it's your dad. Question number 1.
Yes, you are circumcised.
Thank you. Okay. Do you remember a time when I broke the window in the cottage, in the main room, and how that happened? Do you remember how that happened?
Yeah, you fell back in your chair.
It's not true. Pretty much everything that I do or have done has somehow been polished and or improved by having the tutelage of Orson, but also having the psychological nurturing, of Orson over the last 20 years. I've got it everywhere. I've got back hair. It started off as like tiny little gills. It started off as tiny gills. Like I can handle those tiny little gills. But then it just migrated up and connected with my head, and now it's the whole body is a
separate chest plate.
Yeah.
He came into the house and fawning all over me because I was his intended father. And he picked up a book. I said, "You got a book by Rush Limbaugh?" I said, "Take it home and read it." And he called me up a few days later and said, "Wow, that's really interesting." He had been to college, you see. So he was a big lefty.
I believe that everybody should have, in a democracy, that we should have robust debate. But what I want to do is I want to embolden the other side and find the best people to espouse those beliefs, So I'm just trying to equalize, I'm trying to
create a more fair playing field. I'm just checking my email and just because I haven't read any of the sites today to see what we're up to and see who hates me this morning. Well, James O'Keefe is coming here. Hello, James.
Hey.
Take your chapeau off. Welcome to my house. You've been here before.
Once.
Yes.
We had a reporter there last night.
Mm-hmm. We have another reporter here.
Oh, really?
Everywhere I go, I have a
Where
reporter.
is she?
Yeah, I'll introduce you.
Hi. Last time it was Wired. Now what is it? Oh, great. It's not necessarily a good thing to have a New Yorker reporter in the room with you when you're strategizing what you're going to do in your next video campaign. They're not your friends. They hate me. Is the reporter off the record?
No.
The reporter's not off the record?
No. But it's coming out like well after Wired.
Yeah, but I mean like
out.
the illegal issues and everything. Like I don't know if I mean.
Well, then don't say anything that
I don't want people to know about. Well, then I can't
well, you're on camera. I mean, that's.
I know, but I mean, I just I mean, the New Yorker is not necessarily friendly territory, is it? Did I tell you the story about what happened with the Politico guy?
What?
The Ken Vogel guy.
Yeah.
I literally, I think he O'Keefed me. I don't even think he identified himself as a reporter. I literally had a discussion with, him for 15 seconds. Next day, front page Politico, story. It's ridiculous.
James, you just referred to somebody O'Keefing you.
Not identifying themselves as a reporter. But that's the funny thing about the ACORN videos. The Columbia Journalism Review says it's not journalism.
The approach that they brought to this project does not seem to me to be a journalistic approach, right? They are sort of conservative activists, media entrepreneurs. They used a very aggressive tactic.
James is coming from a clear partisan agenda, right? His goal is to embarrass the institutional left. I think he's pretty much said that. And that's not what the journalism I was taught to do or the journalism that my institution practices. It's not what we do.
In all my videos, I try to make the video about something that everyone agrees is wrong. It's not conservative or liberal. It's just we all agree that child prostitution is wrong and evading taxes is wrong. So the fact that a lot of these mainstream outlets refuse to report the story is indicative of the fact that they're not really journalists. And that's why it really pisses me off when people say I'm not a journalist.
No one ever investigates ACORN. No one ever goes after them. There's not a reporter who decides, this is I'm going to make this my beat and, expose these people for the criminals that they are. And so the mainstream press, by falling down on that job, left a huge opening. And, so amateurs wandered in and, they didn't follow all the, the right standards for big J journalism. But, the public got interesting, good information.
I think it is a type of journalism. I think it is something different than what we're used to seeing because it was done without the kind of shield of a major media outlet. It's almost like he's like the Al-Qaeda of journalists. He's working in a small cell. It's decentralized. And it is very difficult to control. And that's both very interesting and I can see why it's anxiety inducing to a lot of people.
When the media decides it wants to kill somebody, it behaves so in a merciless fashion. And that's what they tried to do to you when they took you out. They initially tried to do it by coming out with a series of reports that said that ACORN was exonerated and saying that you had unfairly edited the videos. And so it was to denigrate you as a journalist.
Investigators found the videos were highly edited.
Edited and doctored tape.
Severely edited.
Heavily edited tape.
Selectively edited.
Doctored tape. Manipulated videos.
Doctored and deceptive. Heavily edited tape.
So what was edited out? Tell us what was heavily edited here. It's never something that you ever see from these guys. It's just, it's a way of stopping thinking. Andrew Breitbart is expected to release all his tapes, whereas ABC News is never expected to release all their tapes. CNN is never expected to release all their tapes. Michael Moore certainly is not expected to release all his tapes.
They've had 7 months to go through those tapes and those transcripts, and they have not been able to find the very thing that they still claim exists, that the tapes were heavily edited and you can't tell what was said or if you put words in their mouth. The full transcripts and the full audio clearly show that these people were caught saying what they were caught saying on your edited tapes. Then the second phase was to come after you as a racist, which we had predicted, that's what they do.
Yeah.
And Max Blumenthal wrote this now thoroughly debunked story about James O'Keefe, as Max Blumenthal described it. He had coordinated a conference of white supremacists.
Blumenthal said that because I was at a debate where this racist guy was debating this black guy, because I was present, then he went on to say I helped organize the debate and blah blah blah. It's all false.
And it took us about 24 hours, I think, to completely blow the story apart and get eyewitness accounts from people who were there, including an African-American gentleman who was on the panel. His name is Kevin Martin. He's a black conservative, and he was one of the speakers at this debate. And actually afterwards, James O'Keefe, who was in attendance, that's his crime here, he was in attendance. Afterwards, he went up to Kevin Martin, the black gentleman, and shook his hand and said, "Thanks for being here. I agree with everything you said."
I can say that what I've seen on the internet, and you take the internet with a grain of salt out there, is not what happened there. What Max Blumenthal wrote was not even worth lining the birdcage with.
And Breitbart went after him and said, why did you lie?
Accusing a person of racism is the worst thing that you can do in this country.
Are you defending Jared Taylor?
I'm not at all. He's a despicable.
Sounds like you're defending.
Of course
Jared
I'm
Taylor.
not. No, it isn't.
Are you defending?
No, you. What
John
do you mean?
Derbyshire?
What are you talking about?
I don't know. I mean, this is an event with two people who believe that whites are genetically superior.
We've gone fact by fact and disproved it. We've gotten Salon to have to retract it. And at the end of the day, these people were exposed for being the hacks that they are. They wanted to destroy him, and we decided to destroy them back.
This is guilt by association, you
Why
punk.
are you so angry?
Because you're a punk. You destroy people. Because you try and destroy people's lives through innuendo. Innuendo.
I know how to.
We're done with
James
you.
O'Keefe a racist? Are you saying you didn't call James O'Keefe a racist?
Innuendo in order to destroy people's lives. You're the most despicable life form I've ever seen.
I heard Max Blumenthal deny calling James O'Keefe any names.
Did you call James O'Keefe a racist? No. Your blog says, Andrew Breitbart, why are you defending and paying a racist? Who were you talking about? Who were you talking about?
And I had read Max Blumenthal's work on this many, many, many times. And I knew that he had referred to James O'Keefe as a racist.
Who is it you're talking about?
Well, I was talking about, if it says it on my blog, I was talking about James O'Keefe.
So you just said you didn't call anybody a name. So you did call someone a name. You called James O'Keefe a racist.
They were factually inaccurate. They basically slandered and libeled Mr. O'Keefe for no reason at all.
6 months later, there are no serious investigations into ACORN. There are serious investigations into Hannah, James, and me. I predicted that. I predicted that John Podesta would be the guy overseeing those investigations.
Who is John Podesta? Now we're getting closer to a nemesis.
John Podesta is a longtime friend of ACORN and Saul Alinsky-inspired community organizations. And he's gone out of his way to protect ACORN and similar organizations.
He's one of the architects of a lot of institutional left organizations, and he's one of the architects of the narrative that they're putting forth, and he's one of the architects of the attacks against us.
John Podesta, who is my mortal enemy. Are you hearing me, John? This guy runs Think Progress, and he took videos of a plant, of a person who infiltrated a Tea Party trying to, claim that he was a Nazi and a racist.
I'm a proud racist. I'm white. I'm proud to be a racist.
And he was escorted out by Tea Party people who saw that this was an obvious plant. They escorted him out.
Sir, why do you have a swastika on your shirt?
That doesn't represent Tea Party values. I'd like it if you could please leave.
I'm with the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. We are a white unit.
Well, you don't represent the Tea Party, sir. We don't appreciate what you're wearing, and it doesn't represent us, so just know that. And media, know that.
Think Progress, which is John Podesta's operation, edited out the part where he was taken out as a means to evilly show that the Tea Party is racist.
They stole my video, took it out of context in order to lie. John Podesta's a liar, flat out.
This is a concerted effort. This is a concerted effort. Politics of personal destruction. You, John Podesta.
All right, well, you see where I'm coming from.
Okay. Yeah.
When I talk, that's because I'm interested in this ongoing whatever the hell they're doing.
What's in your closet, John Podesta? Big Podesta? Big Soros? Do you want us to play these games? Because we're playing to win. That was the left, and that's my war. This is what the left does. They destroy people. On the college campus, they destroy the opposition. In the political realm, they destroy the opposition. And in Hollywood, they destroy the opposition. And if I'm the only one in the world that recognizes this and I'm going to start destroying back, I go, that's fine, but I have an army now. My big sites are an army. The people that I meet here are part of my army. These people want to be led in a battle that should have happened a long time ago.
Once you get into the war, you have to fight to win. There's a big question that a lot of wars should not maybe have been started. But once they were, you got to fight to win. And Andrew started his war with the president and lesser folk, and he's fighting to win. And all we can do is praise the Lord and pass the ammunition.
We have video cameras on you everywhere you go, SCIU and ACORN. And your Alinsky tactics to try and destroy Hannah and James and me, bring it on. Mr. Podesta, we're watching you. Hello. Hey, what's up, Richard? Oh my God, I just flew from. I woke up at 4.
Oh well, if you want to hang out with me off the clock, I'm probably your best bet. I went to college here. I told you that, and you'll fall in love with this place. You'll get into a fight. You'll get into a fight with it, and you'll start crying, and you'll fall into a puddle of your own fluids by about 2 p.m, but you'll make up with yourself, and then you'll continue on, and you'll have a love-hate relationship with this town. I promise you. Okay, well, I mean, I will be speaking at 2:30, I believe, and then after that, I'm free for you guys. I'll interact. You'll see me interact. I will interact. I'm an interactor. Oh, Jesus, Larry, what is this? Taffy? Dude, what are you... I just opened the thing. What the happened in here? What? What happened in here? It's a pool. Well, have you ever heard of water in a bathroom? Yeah, in the bathtub.
I haven't had my hair cut in too long. Oh, God, now I'm looking like Regis Philbin or something.
You should only be so lucky.
What the hell is this stuff?
We were always best friends, but for, the usual occasional fallings outs of youth. You can't talk about...
Don't hold it like that. Don't hold that. Well, no, seriously. That is how you... I swear to God, that's how I got... Jesus.
ridiculous. It's like a dainty object of mass importance.
We haven't officially left, and we've had our first spat.
Our first lover's quarrel.
No, it's not a lover's quarrel. You two are like you're like an old.
No, he definitely started it.
Our biggest falling out since we've been business partners, which happened, we both play Fantasy League Baseball, so we're in the same, in our ESPN now Yahoo Fantasy League Baseball, we compete against each other, but in our Keeper League, we're on the same team.
It was definitely because I wanted to keep a pitcher. It was a pitcher, and I wanted to keep him, and it was a reliever, and Andrew was pissed because we kept him at $19. It was Francisco Cordero, and we kept him at $19, and Andrew was furious. Because
you can get a second-rate closer in our league for maybe $13,
which we did. It wasn't the end of the world either.
Now you just $19.
That's the going rate for closers.
No, it's absolutely not true. It's not true. You're not right. You're not right.
It's like a marriage without the without all of the same expectations.
I'm so excited. I cannot hide it. I'm about to lose control. I think I like it. What am I going to say? I know.
We touched upon the emergence of new media. Today we have with us a man who has helped shape and define what the term new media means. Please join me in welcoming Andrew Breitbart.
I'm a Tulane grad, 1991, roll, wave, roll. This is the first time I've been in New Orleans sober. I can see you. I can enunciate. We had this huge party on the lawn. There were about, 250 people all together. Our bookie lived up in that room up there, and I saw a dead kid in the middle of the street shot. We'd been drinking. We'd had like a couple beers. Sex and gambling. What type of asshole tackles a dude naked? This kid was shot by his father. How much would it take for you to allow for it to piss on your face? New Orleans PD. Woo, woo, woo! Go Andrew! Go Andrew! And he took his shotgun and he double cocked it and pointed it. And I ended up going to jail. Because I was behaving this way, all of that post-structuralist Frankfurt School leftist crap didn't sink in. Had I been going to school at 8 o'clock in a shiny, happy way with a glass of coffee and filled my notes up, I guarantee you I wouldn't be fighting the left the way that I am. I would have probably embraced that mindset. So I kind of realized that I inadvertently dodged a bullet. I am so happy to be here to speak to you. I've told people in the past I have two modes. Mode one is jocularity, and mode two is righteous indignation. 2009 and 2010 have filled, unfortunately, with too much of the latter.
What are you here for?
I am here to stop the hate that Glenn Beck is promulgating.
Like what? One thing that he said that's hateful. One thing that he said that's hateful. One, not 100. One.
I'm not going to fall into your trap.
One. It's a trap. Truth is a trap.
I love confrontation, by the way. And by the way, you should too, because it's the only way we're going to win. We have to confront these people. We have to videotape them. We have to put it on the internet, and we have to shove it in the mainstream media's face saying, no, they're the racists, they're the intimidators, and they're the ones who are caught on tape being violent.
Get him out of here, or I'm going to jail today. Get him out of here.
What did you just say?
I said I love you, in spite of what you are. That's what I said.
My mere standing here is causing people to intimate that they want to be violent against me. Just standing here.
We
have an obligation to fight back. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take on the institutional left. Please join the fight. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Andrew is having an effect on the country. My wife, who was had been a Buddhist for 20 years when I met her, is now a Christian and goes to Bible study. And all the old ladies in the Bible study think that Andrew is the savior of America. They worship Andrew Breitbart.
And they think he's a hero charging up the hill. And they're always saying, how's he doing? You know, does he need any help?
They didn't even know that Ali was related to him when they began talking about how they worship Andrew Breitbart. These are a bunch of Christian ladies with blue hair.
Thank you.
Don't ever let up because
Thank
you
you.
inspire us all. Please
Thank you.
remember that you
I'm having
inspire
fun,
us
by the way.
all.
I don't know if you can tell that.
You're fabulous.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I've said this to Andrew's face, so I'm not saying it behind his back, but I frequently think of him as the media pundit Fred Astaire. If you take Fred Astaire and you took him out of his time, if you just plunked him down right now, who would he be? You know, he'd still be a great dancer, but we wouldn't really pay attention to that kind of dance. So he would be obscure. You know, he would be an obscure figure. But Fred Astaire was born at the exact moment that required Fred Astaire. And Andrew Breitbart was born at the exact moment that requires Andrew Breitbart. He was born at a moment when to understand the flow of information is genius per se. It's genius in and of itself. And I don't think there's anybody who understands the way information flows in the modern world better than Andrew Breitbart.
2 days ago, a Tea Party protester shouted the N-word at Congressman John Lewis of Georgia, one of the heroes of 20th century America, and Congressman Andre Carson of Indiana.
When Congressman and civil rights hero John Lewis arrived at the Capitol on Saturday, an anti-health reform protester reportedly shouted a racial epithet at him, one too vile to be repeated on television. Congressman Emanuel Cleaver was also spat on by an anti-health reform protester after being called the same epithet.
A venerable civil rights icon by the name of Congressman Lewis, John Lewis, decided to falsely accuse on purpose the Tea Partiers of hurling the N-word about 15 times.
The initial claim came from Representative Andre Carson, who represents the Indianapolis district. And he got to the Capitol building with Representative Lewis, and he pulled reporters around him and told them that as he was leaving the Cannon office building, coming down the steps with John Lewis, he heard the N-word from the crowd of protesters that were around him. And he said that he heard it at least 15 times from 15 people.
He's like, I got a story for you guys. So he was actually peddling the story out.
Just three of us walking down the steps. Kill the bill, kill the bill. N-word 15 times.
How many people were saying that?
Maybe 15 people. I heard it about 15 times.
What are your thoughts on the crowd outside in general?
It's America. Welcome to America.
The McClatchy newspapers ran with it immediately and tweeted immediately, and then it went everywhere. The entire mainstream media picked it up.
Spitting on a guy. That's what they did to Adlai Stevenson in Dallas before Kennedy was shot. That's a sign of real contempt.
You know, it looks to me, I mean, it has this resonance of the Deep South during the Civil Rights Movement.
You and the young women were being integrated.
Well, Andrew Breitbart, about a week later, made a somewhat audacious offer. He first offered $10,000 for anybody who could provide video evidence of this racial slur.
Congressman Lewis, you're a sacred voice. You accused us of something. I'm going to offer $10,000 to the United Negro College Fund, and I say that quite sincerely. If you're not able to show 15 acts as alleged of the N-word being shouted, but one single act.
And when I heard about that, I thought it was, Andrew being Andrew and kind of getting a lot of attention. And then obviously he was very confident that it didn't happen.
In my piece, I think I described it as probably a place that has a higher concentration of cameras than like a Britney Spears birthday party.
It wasn't recorded because it didn't happen. You can well guarantee yourself today that if it happened, it would have been recorded.
There was one video that's pretty famous now that shows the spittle coming off of somebody's face and hitting Emanuel Cleaver in the face. That was the first video that was really vivid. It showed really the entire Congressional Black Caucus, including Reverend Jesse Jackson Jr. holding 2 video cameras with him. He was videotaping the crowd, and we kept saying, my gosh, if he's got videotape of the incident, he must have the racial slur. And we didn't hear the racial slur in there. When Representative Carson was interviewed by the Associated Press, he said, the video you're looking at is not the time that the incident actually occurred. That's not when it happened. It happened an hour before, and it was just me and Representative Lewis walking down. That's what Andre Carson said. And that's the video we found. We found it from the top of the steps, looking down as they're walking down the stairs. We found it from the bottom of the steps, watching them come down the steps. We've got a video from the curb as they're walking down the steps right toward the camera person. Of course, we have Lee Fang's video where they step off of the curb. And then we have video from across the street even, looking at Cannon as they're walking off the curb and crossing into the street.
He says we were walking down the steps. Then they started to surround us, 400 people. He said it was a page out of a time machine. We thought they were going to hurl rocks. Well, what happened? They hurled the N-word. How many times? 15 times. 15 times, 15 people. It is a provable lie.
I don't know what happened that day. I think, Breitbart and his guys keyed in on I believe it was Andre Carson who said it was 15 times. They seized upon that as if that was, as if this was, the guy was giving, a chapter and verse. Yes, it was 15 times, like a forensic analysis of what happened. No, it was his impression. It was an impression that he heard it chanted about 15 times.
Kill the bill, kill the bill, kill the bill, and one person says, you arrogant bastards, nobody surrounds anybody, and there's no police, as Carson described that the police caught wind of it and stopped it.
I spoke to a few cops there. I'm like, did you hear the N-word being thrown around? Did you hear any horrible racial epithets being thrown at any black lawmakers? And they said, no, it's just been a lot of people shouting, and it's been just the way it is. It happens here on Capitol Hill.
I think that they were trying to get someone to yell at them, and yell the N-word at them, so that they could point and say, now, Tea Partiers are racist because. I think it was staged. I don't think they got what they wanted. I think the press release was written before they walked through the crowd, and the reality of it didn't materialize, but they went ahead with their plan anyway. I believe it was that cynical, that dishonest, and that deceptive.
There's an historic amount of black candidates who are Tea Party created, in essence. And so while the left is trying to say that the Tea Party is racist, a batch of brilliant pro-American exceptionalism, pro-American freedom, pro-fiscal responsibility, black conservatives start inhabiting the Tea Party, and the Democratic Party says, uh-oh, we've got a problem here.
He called me from Searchlight, Nevada, the day that he was in Searchlight introducing Governor Palin at a Tea Party rally in Harry Reid's hometown. And he called me and said, I just upped the ante. And I didn't actually know what he was talking about. And he said, I'm now offering $100,000.
I'll say on Thursday we said 10. Maybe didn't notice us. On Friday we said 20,000. Now we're offering 100,000. I go, that's it. That's enough. It's enough to show that you're not serious.
Tomorrow, come on, people, get back on track. Come on, people, bring back. We are people, we've got to be heard. United we stand, say the word. That's right. Super Bowl, you're Ryan.
And I see black faces, Hispanic faces. I'm Jewish. Shalom, Nevada. I'm not a rich guy, but I'm willing to defend this group of people, this patriotic group of people, and I know you, and I know you're not a racist group, and I know you would not use the N-word at a rally. It's outrageous. So I'm here to announce to the Democratic Party, to the mainstream media, to the people who accuse me of every slanderous name on the book, $100,000 now. $100,000. Just one.
I thought that was a brilliant move, not simply as a kind of gauntlet to throw down or a way of getting out of whether or not things have been said, but it was actually that's exactly what you do when we live in an age of distributed media where everybody with a cell phone camera or a flip camera or whatever, there's a lot of people recording stuff, and you can get very, very interesting material there. And that made total sense.
When Barbara Lee, she's with the Congressional Black Caucus, there's video footage of her going to her car, and a citizen journalist is just asking her, so...
Andrew Breitbart offered a $100,000 contribution to the United Negro College Fund for anyone providing evidence of racial epithets hurled at your colleagues at the CBC at the Kill the Bill rally. What's the latest on your investigation into that? Ma'am? Sorry. Are you guys having an investigation?
What members of Congress have said.
Right. And when do you expect to have closure on this?
We hope to move forward.
Well, what's your time frame? I'm not being a wise guy. Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, we're moving forward. Mm-hmm. Okay, can you elaborate? No, she shut the car door and drove off. So either we need to have a retraction and an apology, or someone needs to come out with the video footage. Otherwise, realize that what you're doing is detrimental, not just to race relations in this country, but to this country in general as a single unit.
It's actually been pretty effective. I think that I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if AP actually has to do something in reaction to this. I mean, it's an outrageous statement.
Well, we'll keep it up this week because we're set to ramp it up to $1 trillion.
Everybody can be a media star. It's happened. You know, some people set the standard like Drudge did way back when, but now everybody has the ability to break a story, and
technology makes it easy.
The thing is the mainstream media is threatened by that, not just because of politics, but because of the economics of it. And so this is the most exciting era in the history of the First Amendment and the era of journalism, yet they're trying to find things to try and stop the inevitable. Like, you can't unring this bell. It's happened.
Hi, Terry. Pleasure to meet you. How are you?
We have a date this week.
We do.
Yeah, how are you? That's terrific.
Selectively edit.
Okay, yeah, that's right. You're not allowed to edit ever again now. That's the new rule.
His name is Andrew Breitbart. My colleague Terry Moran interviews him, the man behind the mayhem.
The multiculturalism is the opposite of e pluribus, and it separated us. It separated us into these distinct categories. And I think the reason why I'm so susceptible to it is because my dad's Jewish and super tan, and my mom's from Wisconsin, and my sister's Hispanic, and I'm translucent. My sister married an Armenian guy, and their kids are completely, you couldn't tell what they are. That's what I like. That's the America that I believe in. And trying to separate us and pit us against each other deeply, deeply offends me.
In the angry, bruising world of modern American politics and media, there is no angrier rhetorical bruiser than Andrew Breitbart.
There's no evidence that the N-word was ever said, but there was a strong...
the word of 3 Congress.
Well, I don't trust them on this one. You want me to tell you why? There was a sea of new media. There were tens of thousands of people. Congressman Andre Carson said it was said 15 times, and there were Capitol Police around when it happened. When somebody dared challenge him and them about this event, they have slinked back into their offices.
My assumption, especially someone like John Lewis, is that guy's not going to lie about that. That would be my assumption. And unless I had proof he was lying, I wouldn't assume he was lying.
So John Lewis is alive.
You're...
Just say it.
Wait. Why do I have to say that?
Because that's what you just told me. He says he was called.
I think that the narrative strains credulity. Do you think that they're liars?
No, I don't.
You don't?
I don't.
I don't understand how, in a sea of new media...
So if it doesn't exist on camera, it didn't happen?
To act like that it couldn't have happened unless it was on video, first of all, I found that very notion dangerous. You know, like we're never ever going to report something unless there's a videotape of it. That's idiotic. You weigh the credibility of the people making the claim. I find John Lewis, at least, to be extremely credible. I don't know much about the other guys.
Where's your evidence that the N-word was said once, let alone 15 times,
testimony
in a sea of media? Testimony? Have you ever been able to ask them a secondary question? They wouldn't take phone calls once I started to challenge them. I went to Ken Vogel of Politico and said,
they're lying.
hey, I do believe they are.
John Lewis is lying.
Yes, I do. I do believe it.
All right, let's get off of that, because I want to ask you something.
You wanted to get he's a liar, and you got it. But I do believe,
I want to get what you believe. I want to get what you believe. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
No, you did. You were actually tried to put the words in my mouth over there. You did. Over there, you kept saying, "Are you saying he's a liar?" I said, "It's strange." I said, "It's strains credulity." And the second that I said, "Yes, he's a liar," after your tertiary inquisition on that thing, you go, "Cut, we got it. Okay, let's move over and start talking about HR puff and stuff." It's such a lie. It's obvious, and not one reporter is doing anything other than challenging me and saying, "How dare you? How dare you? You're not a real journalist." The best strategy that they can devise is to say Breitbart, internet asshole, versus John Lewis, civil rights legend. Who are you going to believe?
It saddens me that the political pressures brought to bear were so profound on John Lewis that John Lewis felt he had to lie, which is what he did. And I respect him. I love him. I honor him and what he's done for our country, but what he did was a lie. What he said was a lie, and what he did was undermine his own legacy.
The N-word was sort of like subterfuge to the whole thing. It sort of played upon this idea, this false notion that the Tea Party movement was inherently racist. And, you know, there are people in the Democratic Party who knew that that was a way to undermine this organic grassroots thing. And I think Breitbart's point, and it's a legitimate one, is that the way you devalue this organic movement is to claim racism.
This was a stunt. They wanted to provoke you, my friends. They wanted to provoke you, and guess what you did? You did nothing wrong. You did nothing wrong. You said kill the bill. You said kill the bill. But they cut your head off again. Rep. Andre Carson said that I was confronted by 15 different people who said the N-word 15 times in a sea of new media. Everybody put your cameras up in the air. Everybody put your cameras up in the air. Put your cell phones up in the air. Everyone put your cell phones and your Blackberries up in the air. We have a sea of new media here to capture the lies. Look at that, mainstream media, you bullshit artists. You hateful bastards. How dare you impugn these people's reputation? Even if there was one person, the ease with which you used it to ruin the whole, it's despicable. The new media is taking over where the old media failed. Yes, they failed, my friends. Yes, they failed. We completely have them backtracking. The best they can do is Terry Moran, who's following me, doing a nightline on me. Are you calling him a liar? Are you calling him a liar? I'm like, his storyline strains credulity. Are you calling him a liar? You know, fine, I'm calling him a liar. He's a liar.
So I admire Breitbart. It's not, it's not the way I speak, but I love watching it, and I think that his criticisms are incisive. I think he's right on most of the time. He kind of gets why people behave the way they do. I mean, if anybody has watched the press closely, it's Breitbart.
This is a pivotal moment in American history where the Fourth Estate is being taken over by the people, and it's a very sexy time. I'm going to get back to ironing.
There's respect for him as somebody who is, learning how to make a buck and build something on the internet. And journalists all realize that this is something critical we have to do. And so from that side of it, there's a great deal of respect for him. But he's also a threat. So people who feel threatened by him are going to try and tear him down, and they have really negative views.
People hate Andrew. That's so horrible. Because I don't believe that anyone, if they knew him, would ever hate him.
I think he's genuinely a mean-spirited guy with a weird sense of humor that isn't that funny, and I don't think he cares about anything but himself.
Breitbart represents the worst element that's in our country. It's a very small element. It's very marginal. But if you stoke that hatred, it gets very loud and sometimes overwhelms our dialogue in a way that is very unproductive, unhealthy for the future of our country, for everyone that lives in it. So I think that it is a responsibility of every one of us to challenge people like that every chance we get.
Hey, have you kicked the cocaine
Anybody
habit?
can say anything.
Have you kicked the cocaine habit?
Now you're accusing me of a cocaine. Now
I'm asking you if you kicked it. Have you kicked it?
I don't have a cocaine habit.
Have you ever slept with a prostitute? Have you? A male one? Have you? Be careful how you answer.
You are notoriously evil about almost everybody. So what do you think of the new politics where everyone just whacks everybody else?
Well, I don't think you know me, Piers Morgan. I think we've maybe spent 8 seconds together, and perhaps you're
a long 8
selectively...
seconds.
The left has to destroy Breitbart because he understands the left. Very few conservatives, very few Republicans understand the left. Breitbart does. That makes him a threat to them, far more than any one single individual politician giving a speech or passing a bill. So to them, they view Breitbart as a mortal threat. So they're going to unleash everything on him. And again, the tribute to Breitbart is he knew that coming in, and he stood firm.
I've been waiting for this. My entire journey politically was born upon watching what happened to Clarence Thomas and seeing that black conservatives aren't given the protections that black liberals are. And so if there's two categories of blacks who are liberal and blacks who are conservatives, and only blacks that are liberal get protected, then the liberals are not protective of black people. They're protective of liberalism. They're not protective of black people. And so the fact that that they claim to be for black people is a big lie.
Let's get back to some basic civility, some basic decency. Let's stop, using racist rhetoric. Let's stop talking about acts of extreme violence.
The NAACP had its convention, and they passed a resolution, one they have not yet released to the public.
Members of the civil rights organization passed a resolution at their annual convention calling on Tea Party leaders to repudiate those in their ranks who use racist language in their signs and speeches. The NAACP also claims activists shouted a racial slur at Congressman John Lewis during a healthcare protest last March.
We will not allow you to send people into the U.S. Congress calling civil rights heroes like John Lewis the N-word.
It was not my goal to have to spend much of March, April, May, and June defending the Tea Party against the false accusation of racism, and specifically that the N-word was hurled. So when the NAACP used the occasion of throwing a convention in July, and the centerpiece of that convention was a resolution to condemn racist elements within the Tea Party, and using the fake, non-existent, provably so, non-existent N-word incident as a means to go on ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, New York Times for the period of an entire week. Pure propaganda, millions of dollars worth of free propaganda to falsely malign tens of millions of Americans as racist. Suffice to say, I was pissed because I was already in the middle of this, and I could not get ABC, CBS, NBC, or the New York Times to look at 4 videos that prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the incident as described by Congressman Carson didn't happen. All they wanted to do was talk about Tea Party and racism and just create guilt by association. That's what the media does. It was propaganda on behalf of the NAACP, on behalf of the Democratic Party. It's collusion at its most cynical, and we exposed it the week before I put out the NAACP/charade video. It was to show them those that live in glass houses should not be throwing stones.
Remember just last week, the NAACP, what do? They condemned the Tea Party as having elements that were racist. And yet, fast forward to, as Brian said, in March, an NAACP gathering, and there's an official from Barack Obama's United States Department of Agriculture making a speech to the NAACP that sure sounded racist. Listen.
I was struggling with the fact that so many black people have lost their farmland, and here I was faced with having to help a white person save their land. So I didn't give him the full force of what I could do.
So she admits there that because a farmer was white, she doesn't extend the full helping hand to him. And she's touting this in this anecdote as though this is, a feather in her cap somehow for her to be congratulated.
How's that for action? Fox News and a conservative website uncover what they say is an admitted racist in the Obama administration, and she is forced to resign immediately.
Late Monday, Secretary Tom Vilsack accepts Sherrod's resignation and issues a statement saying, quote, there is zero tolerance for discrimination at USDA. The NAACP backs Vilsack and at midnight issues a press release blasting Sherrod, claiming it's appalled by her actions.
The problem? There are a few ginormous asterisks that were left out of the initial breathless Fox News coverage. The situation she's discussing took place more than 20 years ago when Shirley Sherrod worked for a nonprofit organization, not for the federal government.
Well, she gave the speech when she was a federal government official employed by the Department of Agriculture. When the incident that she was describing was actually something that occurred earlier in her career when she was not working for the federal government. This was an immaterial error. The fact of what he said that she had said was correct. The fact of that the crowd had approved of her statement was correct. So this affected nothing to do with the actual story. She says in the video, what he didn't realize while he was being very arrogant and dismissive and trying to show he was superior to me is that I was trying to decide whether I would even help him or to what degree I would help him. And when she said that, the crowd, laughs at her joke, and you can hear some people say, kind of agreeing with the sentiment there, and that right there was what Andrew was targeting.
The first time I was faced with having to help a white farmer save his farm, he took a long time talking, but he was trying to show me he was superior to me. I knew what he was doing, but he had to come to me for help. What he didn't know while he was taking all that time trying to show me he was superior to me was I was trying to decide just how much help I was going to give him.
And when we put that video out there in which Shirley Sherrod talked about how she didn't at first give the full weight of her help to the white farmer, and the people in the audience murmured in recognition and gave an affirmative response to sticking it to the white man, I had offered up more video evidence than the NAACP ever offered up against the Tea Party after 2 years of desperately trying to find that footage. My point was, those that live in glass houses should not throw stones, period.
Shirley Sherrod and the farmer she was talking about on that tape, Roger Spooner, who joins us now from his farm in Iron City, Georgia. Roger, what did you think when you first heard all of these accusations against Ms. Sherrod?
I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. She saved our farm. She did.
I told them, get the whole tape and look at the whole tape and look at how I tell people we have to get beyond race.
It's sad that we don't have a room full of white and blacks here tonight, because we have to overcome the divisions that we have.
Now, folks, what we have here is a manufactured story supplied by a hate merchant. And, of course, it was cooked up and promoted by the right-wing network across the street, sold as a racial hate story.
And thanks to the perpetual fraud machine that is Fox News and the scum that is this assassin Breitbart, there will be a portion of this country, the mindless, the hateful, the reactionary, the racist, to whom she is forever convicted and ever imprisoned.
We've been snookered. We've been taken in by this man, Breitbart, who deliberately tried to attack the NAACP through promoting this edited video.
Spliced and diced 6 ways from Sunday so as to completely hide this beautiful story of transformation.
Wait a minute, that's not what this video is saying to me. This video is saying very different things to me, and nobody's telling that story. It contained the exculpatory moment. Even Chris Matthews, if he can see it, my God, who can't?
That's when it was revealed to me that, y'all, it's about poor versus those who have. And not so much about white. It is about white and black, but it's not, you know, it opened my eyes because I took him to one of his own.
Why do you think, if this was a complete slime job, why do you think Breitbart kept that in there, Governor? Why did he keep in that part? Let the governor in here about it. Why did he put the redemptive part in here at all?
That's not that. I did not see that on the original website or the original Fox.
That's the original.
That's not what I saw on.
Well, what are you
Fox.
saying? We're not showing the right thing.
I don't know what you're showing, but that was not.
Oh, you're challenging us now.
I'm saying I didn't see that.
You're saying we made this up, that we put this in Breitbart's blog and it wasn't there.
You sound like Chris Wallace.
I'm asking you.
What I said was that's not what I saw on Fox.
What happened is that other media took it and cut off that part and talked about it on TV. Okay. And so I ended up being a captive to the fact that other people selectively edited out my entire 1,400-word argument.
Hello? Oh, my God. Nobody has read my post. Nobody. It's the weirdest thing in the world.
Eventually, her basic humanity informs that this white man is poor and needs help, but she decides that he should get help from one of his own kind. She refers him to a white lawyer. Sherrod's racist tale is received by the NAACP audience with nodding approval and murmurs of recognition and agreement. Hardly the behavior of the group now holding itself up as the supreme judge of another group's racial tolerance. I used the word her humanity. I said her humanity told her to help the white farmer. Humanity. A writer chooses words. I grant her humanity.
You think he's racist?
I think he's so vicious. Yes, I do. I think he'd like to get us stuck back in the times of slavery. That's where I think he'd like to see all black people end up again.
I mean, she didn't say, I think he's intolerant of black people. She didn't say, I think he's a racist. She said, he wants slavery back in America. Wow.
You guys absolutely tried to turn me into a villain, and you did not, as you're lecturing me on editing, you edited out the context that I provided in my journalism, in my piece, as a means to make me look like a villain.
Between Joan Walsh, and I must have saw half dozen sites say, there is no way this woman can have a racist bone in her body because she is married partner and soulmate to Charles Sherrod. I had never heard of Charles Sherrod. So I get on Google and I'm like, okay, who the heck is Charles Sherrod? And there he is at the University of Law School saying,
finally, we must stop the white man and his Uncle Tom from stealing our elections. We must not be afraid to vote black. And we must not be afraid to turn a black out who votes against our interests.
No, it is about white or black. And they will not leave that message behind. And it angers me to no end that the Joan Walshes of the world, that white liberals, are so willing to allow that to continue when it is so obviously not post-racial. And they get up on their high horse. And that, to me, is the most destructive message that is going into the minds of young black people today. It's about white and black. It's about white and they won't let them forget it. And until they do, it's going to be about white or black.
It's now a 24-second news cycle, and today we have a citizenry that is confused and focused, and to a large degree, I blame people like Andrew Breitbart and Matt Drudge and some of those on the right who, in my view, are intent on confusing, frustrating the public into a position that's not healthy for America.
I'm a biased asshole, I admit it. And there is a huge market for bias out there, and people at least being honest about that they have a perspective, and that doesn't mean that you can't not be held to the standard of truth.
To use your own words at the end, you referred to yourself as a biased asshole, which I agree with. But aren't you also guilty of media manipulation on the right, as you accuse the left of being, as an example, being the Sherrod video? Mm-hmm. And doesn't that take away your ability to take the high ground?
When the mainstream media uses feigned objectivity as its primary cudgel, when they're behind that objectivity is bias, that's a problem. So I said I have no problem with the Independent and the Guardian and even the Huffington Post. At least these people are honest about where they're coming from. When the New York Times pretends that it's independent or that it's objective and then consistently gives a left of center message, that's what I have a problem with. If you want to talk about the Shirley Sherrod thing, fine.
It is the elephant in the room, bud.
Okay, yeah, no, I was waiting for it. Honestly, how many people saw the full Sherrod video, the full 45 minutes?
The full? Really?
The full video, okay. How many people saw the 2+ minute piece that we put up at biggovernment.com?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay? And how many people read the actual article that we put up? Okay, on the first day that this happened, the NAACP apologized for the audience's behavior.
That's what you're identifying, is the audience's behavior.
Okay, why did the NAACP apologize on day one for the audience's behavior? Because they read my piece, they saw my video. If you watch the entire 45-minute video, she says countless things that will cause you to go, she's not post-racial.
I did not watch the original video, and as a matter of fact, I did not even watch this 2-minute video. The information that I acquired was strictly from reading news reports of that. I don't think my point of view would have been changed by watching either video.
Thanks for being so candid about your experiences. I didn't really know much about you before today, but what I'm noticing is that you seem to feed on a lot of hate and righteous indignation. How's your health?
The title. By the way, the title of my book is it's coming out in spring. It's called Righteous Indignation. So yeah, you noticed. I've said I only have 2 speeds, and that's jocularity and righteous indignation. And when I leave here, I will be joking. I don't have other human emotions. I admit it. Okay, all I do is joke and get angry about perceived wrongs. That's it. I feel great. So embarrassing. Hi, I'm the husky male model. Nice to meet you. How are you? All right, please explain to me what's going on. All right. Close set. You do that so well. Also, let me see that.
Andrew Breitbart is a provocateur, and he's remarkably entertaining and very, very charming. What he does an amazing job at is stirring up the pot.
You want him?
Andrew Breitbart's kind of an asshole. And he takes a lot of, as far as I can tell, a lot of pleasure in, pissing people off.
His critics on the left don't understand. I mean, they want to paint him as some kind of reactionary pigman who is just throwing, flinging feces on the wall like a trained monkey. And in fact, I think throughout all of his work, whether it was at the Drudge Report, whether it was at Huffington Post, or whether it's at Big Hollywood, Big Government, etc., what he's a genius at is actually using the architecture of contemporary post-broadcast media to pull out interesting stories and interesting sources, interesting voices.
He's more than just a right-wing blogger. He's more than just somebody you can dump a scoop on and he'll put it out on the web. He's a presence.
I don't even know what I am. Sometimes I'm a provocateur because I have to. Sometimes I have to play mischief with the mainstream media in order to get those stories to the mainstream media. Sometimes I am a journalist, whether I like it or not. Sometimes I'm dead serious. I've got hard news and I've got to report it, but I'm not worried about language. I'm not worried about terminology. I'm not worried about luster or esteem from the so-called professionals. I'm concerned about setting the media straight in a world that is completely upside down these days.
I use your website to teach my students. I teach high school American government. And I do.
Sir, you're wonderful.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your work you're doing. A true American. Thank you. Thank you. We'll wait you.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. This is inspiring me for what I'm going to say today. Nice to meet you. Pleasure.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey, how are you?
I'm the guy who sent you that 9-second video back in April.
Are you Marin?
Yeah.
All right. Maroon. Yeah, I've got a good memory, don't I?
Yeah.
Keep your eyes out. Yeah. And finally, you guys said enough is enough. And a year ago, it's an anniversary this weekend. It was a year ago that we launched the ACORN tapes. And CBS, ABC, and NBC all ignored the story. Oh, but this was all written into the plan. The more you ignored it, the bigger the story got. Thank you, mainstream media. I didn't bring ACORN down. You brought ACORN down. Turn around and look at the American people, media. Look at them. These are the people that you've called racist, sexist, homophobe, Islamophobe. If you don't like the American people, I've got a place with warm weather south of Miami that will take you in open arms. I'm telling you this, when I get my network, and I'm going to have one, my friends, when I get my network, it's just going to be 1 week of revenge. Just 1 week and we're going to get on and do real news. Let's talk about whether or not Katie Couric is racist. I think she'd be pissed off. So we're going to talk about whether Katie Couric is racist. We're going to talk about where she vacations and whether or not there's a righteous amount of ethnic diversity where she vacations. Does she vacation away from minorities? Are you a racist, Katie Couric? That's what you have done for the last year, and we're sick and tired. Not only are we sick and tired of it, I have the worst news for you. As your profits are going down because we're saying no to the free subscriptions, as we're turning to other channels, and as we're going on to the internet where there's a free and open debate, something really strange happened on the way to the forum. And you became the media. You took their jobs because they wouldn't do their jobs right. How do I know that? Because my media empire is you. You're the ones who are right for me. I don't have a private jet. I don't have a house out on Montauk on Long Island. I've got 2 car payments. I've got a mortgage that I can't afford, and I want to save the country with you. That is what we do. We are a citizen journalism army, and we're going to take this country back. Thank you very much. I'm going to launch a network. I made that one up on the fly.
The photo showed a man from the waist down in his underwear with an apparent erection.
The left-wing blogosphere went nuts, The fact that Breitbart was able to smear Weiner with
what Andrew Breitbart was insinuating about him with young...
I'm here coincidentally. I just arrived at LaGuardia because of media request, and as I got into my hotel... I'm Andrew Breitbart, by the way.
Weinergate. The photo showed a man from the waist down in his underwear with an apparent erection.
This seems like it was a prank to make fun of my name. You know, when you're named Weiner, that happens a lot.
But the New York tabloids had a field day again today. The New York Daily News front page calls it Weiner's Pickle. And the New York Post blares Weiner exposed.
Weiner, an outspoken liberal Democrat, insisted to CNN it was the work of a hacker.
I was hacked. It happens to people. You move on.
Well, we just want to resolve it once and for all. You would know if this is your underpants, for example.
The question is, I appreciate you continuing to flash that at me.
Congressman Weiner says that his account was hacked, that this was a prank. So I have to ask you, since you were first to break the news on your website, how did you find out about this?
I was checking my Twitter account and somebody sent me the retweet. I clicked on it, saw that it was coming from Congressman Weiner's account.
CNN puts this Breitbart guy on and says the most outlandish thing about complete innocent people.
He's been monitoring relationships that Congressman Weiner has been having with women. I'm not saying what type of relationships, girls that are quite young.
Girls that are quite young.
What Andrew Breitbart was insinuating about him with young girls and stuff is outrageous. And frankly, it's too bad that he got to say that stuff on CNN.
This person who's been so discredited so many times, is such a serial manipulator of the media, is allowed to just come on and spout off like that.
You want to do the briefing?
Do you want to do the briefing, sir?
From your Twitter account,
Sir.
a lewd photograph was sent to a college student.
Sir.
Answer the question. Was it from you or
Sir,
not?
I'm going to have to ask that we follow some rules here. And one of them is going to be U.S. questions. I do the answers. That seem reasonable?
I'd love to get an answer.
That would be reasonable, right? You do the
answer.
questions. That would be reasonable. You do the questions. I do the answers, and this jackass interrupts me. How about that as the new rule of the game?
Clearly, Weiner looked like a jerk in that interview, and anybody who was watching could see that. But it's also important to remember that the person who has been pushing this story the most is Andrew Breitbart, who has been consistently inaccurate in portraying Democrats, members of the Obama administration, as doing things on video that they have not done.
It certainly doesn't look familiar to me.
He ought to know whether those are his underpants.
But I don't want to say with certitude to you something that I don't know to be the certain truth. But I do know some certain truths here. To be clear, the picture was of me, and I sent it.
Everything that I've said so far has come to be true. I'd like to hear one. The media says Breitbart lies, Breitbart lies, Breitbart lies, Breitbart lies. Give me one example of a provable lie. One. I really think you're going to like this. And this is John David, a close friend and a great American patriot and a Tea Party attendee. John David. This song is called American Heart, and it goes out to all of you.
They say our reputation needs a new coat of paint and a delicate melody. But I say I like the bruises, 'cause the melody don't mean a thing. We don't have the strength to sing. And I won't be made to ever feel ashamed. That I'm American made. I got American parts. I got American faith in America's heart. Go on, raise the flag. I got stars in my eyes. Oh, I'm in love with her, and I won't apologize. They say that we need changing, as if all the founding fathers seem to get it wrong. But I say, I still believe in the greatest innovator, liberator, cultivator, freedom knows. So I suggest you take a look inside, 'cause I think you changed already. You went and lost your pride, but I'm American made. I got American heart, I got American faith.